Then over here we have a cookie jar from 1912, very beautiful, from Germany. Very nice. Again, an old lady's powder box. We come back this way. We have an old Singer sewing machine. Working on your foot pedal. A lot of people have grandmas or mothers that have these sitting in the porch or have them in the house. We have a different style of it. Down here we have a crank, hand crank model. You just wind it up. Well, here. Wind up like that, you get her going. Here we have an old shaving stand with a mirror. Very poor mirror. Probably had to use the reflection heat of the sun. Here we have one of the first scales used in the local Rochfort Bridge post office when it was here. This scale weighed the first letters that went through there. Then we come up to this level. We have a hair crimper, otherwise known as a Marcel weaver. Women during the 20s, they try to get their hair wavy, and this would help them. Lots of stories people tell me of burning your hair or burning your ear. And then come up here, we have lots of plates, different styles. People just collected over the years and donated to us. And we come back this way, we have an old homemade desk and chair during the 30s. They were made, as you can see, what you didn't you went with, or you made. The chair and upside down here. You can see Imperial Oil Limited. Made out of an old crate. Here we have an old ball made out of cow's hair. Kind of interesting. It's quite light. And again, we have more photos of the area. Lots of pictures of people going to gatherings and picnics and so forth, or hunting. A lot of them favorite pastimes are going out, or hunting, so forth. And we come this way. We have an old Arlington sewing machine from 1900. This one's in very, very good condition. Very nice. And we'll have some distaffs. This one's hand carved, made from diamond willow. And this one here brought back from South Africa, 1905. It's made out of rhino skin. It feels a lot like sandpaper. Very rough. Here we have an old spinning wheel. We've dated it back 200 years old from Sweden. It's a family heirloom, so the paint's been added 2 times as it's been passed down. And we look up here, we have 2 examples of the automatic knitting machine to make socks and so forth. You'd adjust it through here and run it through and it'd knit it for you. come up with the final product looking something like this. We even have the instruction booklet here, kind of rough shape. As you can see, it shows you how to make socks. We even have the crate in which it was sold in. As you can see, it says auto knitted on there. We come back over here. We have an old loom, quite a small one, as looms go, probably used by a single family on a farm. And we have, we call it our junk section, not because anything is junk, but just because we really have no place else to put it, so kind of just stuck it in the corner. But as you can see, we have lots of odds and ends. Christmas tree ornaments, clocks, cups, teapots. So a lot of just mixed in things we just threw in there. And we come over here, we have some cameras, some old, some not so old. Let's see here. These ones run as the same principle kind of as the old pinhole cameras. As you can see, the different how it has evolved in the different styles. You look down through there, you'd see the subject you were shooting, and then you just push. There usually be a cord. I think we have another one right here that has one that would be attached. Like this. And you just push that to take the picture, or you could just push down on that there. Then we have, again, some not so old ones, but the first Polaroid. An old flash cube. I'm not too old. I remember these. And again, we have a Viewmaster there, and an old video camera. Granny, you'd have to hand crank it through there. An old radio up there from the 30s. You can look in the back there and see it's quite interesting in the back. We're missing some of the pieces, so it's kind of bare, but not that much to make up a radio. When we come down here, we have an old gas mask set, probably used in World War II. A lot of people in England had these. The children had the Mickey Mouse kind. I guess try to take their minds off of it. Then up here we have the royal family, Queen Victoria I, King George, King Edward, Winston Churchill there, Queen Mum that just turned 100 years old, 100 years young. And we have the present-day Queen, a lot younger, and Prince Philip there. Come over here to our cabinet. We have somewhat of a collage of wars and so forth. We have an old World War I Germany helmet here. It says it's a cavalry helmet, probably used in ceremonies for decorational purposes. As you can see, the old spike Kaiser. And here we have an old Royal Canadian Air Force hat here. See the eagle there. Here we have an old infield from the South African or the Boer War. What you could do here is you could open this up here and it would run off your clip. You could push it in. You could just use it as a single shot. But quite heavy to be lugging around all day. And we have some service medals. Here we have the first two from the right are from World War I, and the very last one on the left is from the South African or the Boer War. Then we come over here, we have an old rations tin from the South African or the Boer War with Queen Victoria I on the front. The interesting thing is we still have the original chocolates. Just turned 100 years old. I couldn't say how we managed to stay this long, but it's got to say something for chocolate. And this here, to continue on with the theme from the Boer War, a helmet from the Boer War probably wouldn't stop too many bullets, but just keep you shaded, so forth. And over here we have some uniforms, Canadian military during World War II. As you can see, the made out of wool, quite heavy, but very warm, even heavier when wet. I can only imagine. And then here we have an old barber's chair, spittoon. Here we have called a razor strop to sharpen your straight razors on. I'm sure some kids' butts got whacked with them as well. And we come through here. We have an old, well, not that old. It's a model of a 20s homestead made by a local senior citizens home, mostly made by a man named Reg Archer. Very detailed. If you look underneath here. And here we have toy models. Used to belong to a man named Gary Quinnell, but he passed on not too long ago, and his wife was lucky enough to loan us some of these. They're not actually they're not that old, but they are models of old tractors, so you can still see how the old kind looked like. And I guess they're quite valuable. And then we come back through here, as I was saying before, with the copper coil. This is the actual still to make your moonshine. Here we have a cheese press from about 1908 from England. Just stick her in there and press her down. An old 20-gallon crock pot. It started to crack, so we put the wire on it to hold it together. Here we have some cheese or cabbage cutters. Probably used to cut a variety of things. This one's quite large. This one you probably see mostly. That kind of size in a house. Hold in use. Then we come here. We have a cheese or a butter cutter. What you do is you could measure out how much you wanted to cut, and would move the cutting board here, and you just cut it down. Away you go. Then down here we have cutlery and so forth. What you didn't have, again, you made with the hand-carved fork there and the potato mashers, an old egg beater. And here's some more household items. We have, it kind of works the same way as your SOS pad would right there. It looks kind of like chain mail to scrub your pots out. Knives, so forth. Some of these things you still see on sale now. That rack right there to you could cook toast on it as you could with the little clamp. Something in breakfast over an open fire, the open flame. You have some more pots and pans. This is kind of ahead of its time. It's a hot water vegetable dish. What you'd do is you'd take this off here, and you'd fill it with boiling water, and put your food in, and it would steam in there and would keep your food quite warm. Kind of a ingenious idea. Surprised you don't see them today. Then we have an old lantern. Here, bigger types. Here we have it's called a hot water. An old style of a hot water bottle, referred to as a piggy because of its snout-like features, I guess. You just open it up, fill it with your hot water, and it would stay warm. I guess it stayed warm, I should say, a lot longer than your nowadays rubber hot water bottles, but probably a lot less comfortable, I'm thinking, because it really wouldn't conform to anything. Here we have a porcelain rolling pin. It's hollow, so it's really light. Probably more or less for decoration than actual use. Here we have an old rug beater, used as to beat rug, but probably whacked some kids' butts in its day. Here we call these Indian brooms only because we used to have a lot of things of a lady called, her name was Mrs. Callahoo, and she was a Cree princess. She married into the Crees, and she became a Cree princess because of that. But we used to have a dress of hers and so forth, but we donated to different museums could better preserve them. But here we have, as you can see, just roll them up there and tie them in. Over here we have some butter churns. This one here is kind of out of commission, but you turn it, and through the wheels and so it would turn your butter. We have a bigger one here. What you do is you'd open the door, you'd throw your stuff in, your milk, all that, and you'd turn it like this, pull this back and forth, and through momentum it would get going, and it could go quite fast. But the bottom's gone out of ours, so I can't do it. If we look up here, we have some lemon pie filling, kind of neat. We actually still have the original pie filling. I doubt you'd want to use it though. And again, royal yeast cakes. We actually have the yeast cakes still in there. I doubt it would make anything rise too much anymore. And we even have whole nutmeg. We have some more butter churns. Then we have lots of grinders, multi-purpose grinders. This one says here it's a flour grinder to grind flour by hand, but probably used like a lot of stuff back then. Whatever you could use it for, you would. Coffee grinder here, quite rare because of its glass features, and it's still intact, so you don't really see too many of them anymore. Here we have another coffee mill. This one's a smaller one, probably used in a household. This one's even bigger, probably used in a restaurant itself, where you put the beans in, you grind it, and the final product would come out there. We have a cream skimmer. What you'd do is you'd stick your milk in after you milked the cow. You'd stick it overnight, and overnight it would separate into your cream and your milk, and you just drain out the milk from the bottom. Here we have another cream separator. Through a series of discs and everything, you just pour your milk in there, crank this, and it would separate your milk and your cream, and they'd run out different spouts. But I guess it was quite a horrid thing to clean because of all the discs. But ours is actually missing some pieces. So come over here. We have a lot of hand carved stuff. A bowl, a lot of bowls. This is Norwegian for cutting rye bread. Actually, you still see a lot of these if you go over to Denmark or Sweden. You'll see these in use because they have a lot thicker bread. They'll cut them, and they do a lot of stacking with their sandwiches. Then we have some butter molds, the ever so popular square one, and kind of different a round one right there. We come this way, we have a lot of Aboriginal stuff, all donated by Mr. Hugh Jones. Not too sure the story on him, but as you can see, the beadwork is unremarkable, just really nice. Then over here we have some more snowshoes. We have a pipe and even a powder flask there made out of a horse's bladder. But the pipe, not a peace pipe, but most pipes, no matter if they were referred to as peace pipes or not, were used in the same way a peace pipe was used. I guess it was through tradition they'd use, you'd smoke the pipe with them, and you'd have almost like a promise to bond something. But here we have an old rifle. This is a 1892 model Winchester. It's quite rare only because it's a .44 caliber. They didn't actually make too many of them, but really small, really light. But I guess it's worth quite a bit. You have the saddle mount there. Then here we have a bear hide tan there, some deer skin. We have a beaver here. Up the road in Rochfort Bridge, there's actually the original trading post where it used to be was up the road in Rochfort Bridge, and they had the guy actually until not too long ago bought and sold furs, and one of his trappers trapped a beaver that was pregnant and found that, so we decided to take it to a taxidermy and get it stuffed. We come over here, we have lots of odds and ends. See these rocks here, they somewhat resemble animals, but what they are is just rocks that been in the rivers and through time a grain of sand would get in them, and with the current pushing the sand, it would through time drill a hole through them or create different shapes. We look at the two artifacts there, the eye and the eyebrow piece. I'm not really sure too much how we got that, but it's from the ancient South American tribes, your Aztecs and so forth, and your Incas, off a statue there. Then we have an old light bulb. We come here, we have from World War II some ration booklets. Look in here. Then we have gasoline ration booklets down there. Come this way, we have, we look at the beaver, the little plaque there. What they used to do with the parks and so forth is what you do is you pay for your membership into the park. Instead of giving you a sticker to put on your window like they do now, you'd be given that, and there'd be a new one every year, and you'd mount it on your car somewhere, so they'd tell that you paid admission. Then we have our newspapers here. The first newspaper in the Lac-Sainte-Anne area, called the Lac-Sainte-Anne Cross. And here we have also referred to as the Cree Review, written in Cree, but a different kind of Cree called dog rib Cree. If you were to ask a local Cree person from a reserve in Alberta, they'd tell you that it was dog rib Cree, as is the Cree prayer book we have here. The Cree's language was never written initially, but when the ministers and so forth came down, they created a written language to better communicate with them. Then we have some straight razors down there. Again, a Marcel weaver or a hair crimper. African hair pick. Ivory cigarette holder there. Button hooks. Here we have some nickels from the war era. As you can see, the B for victory on it. They're actually not even made out of nickel to try to preserve metal for the war. Tanning shuttle. So you guys can just look around if you want, but thank you for supporting the Lac-Sainte-Anne Museum. It's greatly appreciated. Have a nice day.
The John Namath cabin was built by him, and his family was raised there. It too joined the museum in 1993, where it now gives us a window into the living conditions of our pioneers. The blacksmith shop is used especially at the highly successful Heritage Days Festival, held every year in August. This is when visitors can see and participate in many pioneer activities. The Orangeville Schoolhouse was the first to be built in the whole area, and was still used as a school until the 1940s. It was renovated by former students in the 1980s and moved to its present site in 1993. It now houses lots of school-related items, bringing nostalgia to the seniors and probably disbelief to the juniors among us. But a schoolroom doesn't look like a schoolroom till it has school kids in it. Let's put that right.
What year was it built? Well, probably it would have been started in 1910. Maybe
It was started in 1909, and I think they had it ready before 1911. But at that time, the people were just coming into the country, and there wasn't enough school-age children to open it. But they had it ready when there weren't enough children. And so there were a few that came in that didn't have a school to go to at all for a couple of years. But it was actually built in 1909, but they didn't open it until 1911.
Yeah.
You know what that was for? Well, in those days, you know, they didn't have pens like you have now. They had ink that was fluid, and that used to have a little casing in there. There was a little glass thing in there to pour your ink. And then you had the pen, and you had to dip it in the ink and write it on the paper.
And excuse me, Mrs. Colson,
Yeah.
but if you want to just pass it around, be careful because the nib, we called it, is quite sharp. You dipped that in the ink, and then you wrote until the ink ran out. Then you had to dip it again, so you could pass it around. That was called a straight pen. I don't think they started using the straight pens until at least grade 4.
Okay.
Yes, in grades 1, 2, and 3, they wrote with only pencils.
And then when they started in grade 4 with the pen, well, maybe they'd be able to do, of course, they all wanted to learn to write with a pen because then you were growing up, you see.
Mrs. Colson was telling the other group that she remembered 40 students being in this particular school, grades 1 to 8. And that's a little bit hard to imagine for children nowadays, isn't it?
A strap. This is a strap. Well, you know, you don't use these anymore. But I used them when I went to talk school. In fact, this is the one that I had, the last one I had. And first of all, you put the bad kids in the first row, right? And if they still don't mind, you know, I won't hit you. You just put it like that, and you hit them, you know. And then they mind, eh? So, I guess this is a souvenir now, because they don't use them anymore.
Would you like to read what it says? Everybody together.
Today is Monday, September 10, 1924.
Come and take a look at a different world. Enjoy the thingamajigs and whatsits of a bygone age, and help support our heritage for our children's sake. We can be found right on Highway 43, just 120 kilometers northwest of Edmonton. A visit to remember.